Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also live on Zodiac TV. We're streaming on the Mac Sports Facebook page, and we'll be on Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook page. We're also on the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, Twitch, and Twitter. So please go over to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel for all the great NESSP shows. Our website is nessp.info. Check it out. Shows, information, our guests, stores, and links to the stores. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, who right now is having technical difficulties and hopefully will be on soon. He's our legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association. So good morning, everybody, as I said, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. It looks like Jack. Yeah, Mac is on live, but it looks like Jack is backstage. Hopefully he's raring to go, and let's see if I can bring him up. How
Jack
you doing?
is still having technical difficulties, but he had his backup stuff, so I'm working on it. It went kaput, My first team went kaput. I went to the bench.
Okay, great, Jack. I'm glad.
I might sound a little lower, but next man up and next equipment up.
Right. Now. And I'm glad you made it on, Jack. So, as you know, every Friday we have our NBA preview and review where we talk about the standings, the games, and all that good stuff. So we're going to get to that right now. Yes, sir. Our NBA preview, and mainly we do review all the standings, but of course we pay special focus to the teams of the Northeast. So, Jack, in the West Division right now, we have the hot Utah Jazz, who have been hot all year, winning their last three at 32-11. The Suns moving to second at 29-14. The Clippers at 30-16, followed by the Lakers, who have been hurt. Denver, Portland, and Dallas. The Spurs, the Jazz have a 3-game lead right now, Jack.
Teams made moves during the trading deadline yesterday. The Clippers, if we're talking about the NBA West, made a subtle move where they acquired an old face. With a lot of experience with a championship pedigree, even from the Celtics and the Lakers last year, where they got Rondo from the Atlanta Hawks. So a move like that to get a veteran like that who still has something left in the tank is certainly going to help. And it's all about the little moves, positioning themselves, so on. The team that intrigued me the most, we'll talk about when you go to the NBA East.
Sounds great, Jack.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the Eastern Division, Philadelphia is still in first with 32-13. The Bucks and the Nets are now tied for second. Charlotte moves into third/fourth, tied with the Knicks at 23-22, followed by the Hawks, the Heat, and the Celtics. So right now, Philadelphia is still controlling the Eastern Division, but the Bucks have been moving up quickly, Jack.
Yeah, they do. I mean, last night the Sixers beat the Lakers, and Doc Rivers was a little upset with Dwight Howard. He got kicked out of the game, got two quick technicals on him, which was ironic because it was a homecoming game for both Dwight Howard and Danny Green going back to Los Angeles, where they received their championship rings from being on last year's championship Laker team. So could you imagine that, a warm homecoming for Dwight Howard? He gets kicked out of the game.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so it's like going back to your old place of work where they want to honor you for your service in the past, and you get in an argument, and you're out of there quickly.
Yeah. They're having a birthday party for you at the bar, and you're the one that ends up getting arrested.
Right. Yeah.
So in the locals games last night, as you said, the 76ers 109, the Lakers 101, and 76 forward Green was the leading scorer with
Danny Green. Yeah, he had a bunch of three-pointers. No LeBron, no Anthony Davis. Take it
and
for
no
what it's
Embiid.
worth.
And no
Marc
Embiid.
Gasol is back for the Lakers, so he's a nice chip off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, you had that, and then you had Simmons with with 12 assists. So he's still doing his thing over there as far as playing the overall player that he is. The Knicks come from way back to beat Washington. R.J. Barrett got moved back to forward, had 24 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, quickly had 16 off the bench. With the trade deadline coming up, Jack, right? I mean, we expected the Knicks were in the news maybe going after some really high profile players, but Oladipo ended up with the Heat. The Celtics got some bench scoring with Evan Fournier. The Knicks get Ferguson and Vincent.
Small moves, not
Right.
significant moves.
They got a second round pick, and they sent Ellis to the 76ers, Austin Rivers to the Thunder. So there still could be some things out there. The center for the Cavaliers, there might be a buyout there. But as you said, there was no real big deals for the Knicks at all. So, I mean, a very busy free agency, but nothing big for the local teams yet.
No, not at all. The biggest deal of all was the one that wasn't made, okay, with the Toronto Raptors not trading Kyle Lowry. He would have been a difference maker wherever he would have gone. He could have shifted the power in the NBA East, but Toronto's holding on to him. So everyone basically stayed pat. If Lowry went to the 76ers, it would have been a bad blow to the Nets, Milwaukee, but he stayed put with Toronto. And Miami, they got Victor Oladipo, and they didn't really give up a great deal.
Yeah.
And supposedly they're the front runners also to get LaMarcus Aldridge, who the Spurs basically have let go. So if they get Aldridge on top of Oladipo, they're ready to make a run during the playoffs. All of a sudden, Miami, who went to the finals last year, they joined the Nets, the Sixers, and the Bucks, kind of as a foursome, as a serious contender, to emerge. So it's interesting.
And Carlos brings up a great point. Burks has been playing unbelievable. He was a leading scorer last night for the Knicks coming off the bench. Burks has really picked up the game. He's getting more playing time, Jack. So, I mean, there's a weapon that we have off the bench that, Thibodeau is starting to utilize right now.
Yeah, he is. But, I mean, what I don't understand about the Knicks, their point guard situation, they're going to have to address it unless they want to move forward with, the veteran Derrick Rose, who might still be able to handle it. He can handle it part-time. But either they're counting on Derrick Rose to be the guy, or they have problems. He's playing Frank, how do I pronounce his name? Both myself and Keith Engel get tongue-tied. Ntilikina. I mean, he's a point guard that rarely gets an assist. And he's not that good a shooter, and he's just so defender. And I don't understand what they're doing with that position. They had hopes for Quickly to be the point guard. They called him a point guard early in the year. but he's really not. He's really more of a shooting guard.
Right.
So they're going to have to address that position, and getting an Andre Drummond, even though he would help obviously with rebounding, wouldn't be addressing the situation at all. So I think the Knicks are what they are. They play hard each night. They have some good chemistry there. They're not a serious contender to come out of the East, not serious at all. But as long as they make the playoffs, I mean, it's been an entertaining year. They've given us as much as we could have expected from them and probably more.
Well, let's talk about Derrick Rose for a minute. I haven't seen him in the lineup in quite a while.
He's been hurt.
What's the extent of his injury? Do you know?
No, he should be back. No, he should be back soon, Derrick Rose. I mean, that's not a problem with Derrick Rose. I mean, going forward.
Right. Well, hopefully he's back up in the lineup soon because, as you said, quickly as a nice touch, he's a good scorer, but to be a point guard and a shooting guard is not that easy. So hopefully either quickly comes along quickly or Derrick Rose is going to be.
Well, you mentioned with Austin Rivers going to OKC. I'm just curious what the deal really is with him, because he got off to a very nice start for the Knicks this year. He looked like he could have a future with the Knicks this year, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah,
I don't work out at all. And, and basketball could be a very cold-hearted game. I mean, personal relationships, you'd think they mean something, and once in a while they do, but all around it doesn't. Austin Rivers' dad, Doc Rivers, and Tom Thibodeau, good friends. They're close. Yeah. Yet Tom Thibodeau basically banished his son, as far as the team went. And Austin Rivers then took some time off away from the team. Reportedly, his wife was expecting, but he'd been on the bench continuously before that. So that makes it much easier to take a hiatus.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what happened there either. And of course, I heard rumors that there was a little falling out between the two. I don't know. But, right now the Knicks are playing solid ball. They're not playing great ball yet, but they are competing, and it's fun to watch. At least this year, it's sure a change from the last few years, Jack. So the 76ers, as I said, they're still in first, Jack. The Nets, I don't know what it is with that team. That team should be sailing, Jack, with the big three. Durant seems to be hurt.
Well, Durant's out, so they don't have a big three.
Right.
Basically, a lot of times it's a big one. James Harden. And, Kyrie Irving's played great the times he's been in. He's taking off again. Rumor is his girlfriend is expecting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't like to pass judgment when he all of a sudden has to take off. The first time around when he took off 7 games, we heard no reason at all. We didn't hear a valid reason why he took off. And now he's taking off again. I mean, I don't want to say anything negative because it might be a very good reason he has to take off. So I don't mean to be critical. But had he not taken off the 7 games before, I don't think anyone would even be questioning why he's taking off time again.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And we'll see if the Lakers can rebound. I don't think they want to. I don't know. Maybe they want to be in the middle of the pack come playoff time. I'm not sure. I think LeBron always competes hard, and he wants to be number one at everything. So when he comes back, I expect the Lakers to pick it back up again. So let's switch over to our hockey scores, Jack. Just the locals for now. The Rangers beat up the Flyers 8-3. Pags, when he was on Wednesday, was correct. He said they were going to lose. I mean, you had. I mean, didn't they just lose? They got their butts handed to them. You had goals coming from everywhere. It didn't seem like the Flyers could stop anything. It was just an onslaught. Again, Jack, I think that the Flyers need to address the head coach position. I think he's lost the team.
Well, I don't think that, Mac. it's just that they've had some terrible goaltending, the Flyers, with Carter Hart. Carter Hart expected to be an elite goalie. Watching him yesterday against the Rangers, he was just out of position. I mean, I don't buy that he was hurt. Okay, I just don't buy that. And it's
Well, he said,
Flyers a team that's really descending. They're only a few points out of a final playoff position, but it just doesn't look like it's happening this year. And
yeah, I mean,
but they hold Adam Vignal responsible, their coach. I mean, he's considered an elite coach in the league.
yeah. Well, I still think after that playoff defeat against the Islanders last year, where the Islanders they beat them in 7. It could have been sooner than that. I think that there was a real problem with that. And Jack has popped out and he popped back in again. We're having fun today. Let's see if we can bring him back up and see what's going on. Jack, what's going on over there, my friend?
Well,
Jack, you're on with us right now.
yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, let me get this tech. Oh boy, I tried to pull one device to the other.
Right. Again,
Let me deal with it. Let me get back on, Mac. You hear me in the meantime?
yes, I do. I brought you back down till you're all set, Jack. So, folks, I really believe that the Flyers, Jack may disagree with me a little bit, but I think the Flyers have got to start looking at that head coach. I mean, listen, after they got defeated by the Islanders last year in the playoffs, where the Islanders were a lot more aggressive than them, they were forechecking them, they were going after them, they were out skating them. I think that there's a problem there with – I'm not saying the head coach is no good. All I'm saying is that, he might have lost that team, and it happens once in a while. So Jack is popping on all kinds of windows now. So I'll bring him up here in a minute as we talk about the Capitals. The Capitals beat the Devils, Jack. So the Capitals, they seem to be playing really good hockey. Again, surprising me, surprising a lot of the experts that they're really a mainstay this year in the top 4. We talked to Carter about it. I said that they're a pretty deep team, and he disagreed with me. But, even though Carter's the expert, from what I'm seeing, the Capitals have a very deep and solid team.
Yeah, Capitals got off to a great start early in the year. Then they kind of cooled off a little. Now they have it together again. And listen, I mean, they have one of the great players of all time, Alex Ovechkin, on their team. And, he hasn't slowed down a bit, it seems, over the years. And I was impressed a week ago when they stole a game from, the Rangers. They were down 1-0, 2 goals in the last 7 minutes. Ovechkin scored. And, the NHL, you talk about that Eastern Division there. The Bruins got off to the great start during the year. They were supposed to be retooling a little bit, trying to get younger, kind of moving on from a couple of their veteran players. But now the Bruins are barely holding on, for that 4th spot, in the playoffs. And it could really go anyway. In the NHL, unless you're the Tampa Bay Lightning or a team like that that's going to be consistently good, basically from beginning to end, these teams go on a run. They play great for a couple of weeks, then they cool off for a week, then they play well for a week, and then they're so-so for a week. And it's like last man standing at the end. Yeah,
I mean, I'm just impressed that the Capitals have played as well as they have had all year. The Islanders, as you were mentioning, the Bruins, they keep going. I mean, they beat the Bruins 4-3. Both have very good defensive teams, Jack, if you think about it. The Bruins and the Islanders, they're kind of similar. The Islanders may be a little bit more experienced playing chemistry-wise. As you said, they were retooling. But, I mean, the Islanders, you have Pageau, Bailey, Baville, and Wallstrom all score. The Flyers, Bork, Kampfer, and Coleman with a goal apiece. I just think the Islanders have now become the team to beat in the East Division, Jack.
No, you can't make them the team to beat because the Islanders have had a couple of really great weeks. You can't all of a sudden say, what happens when they cool off and someone else has a couple of good weeks? You're going to say they're the team to beat. Am I going to say the Devils are the team to beat? Okay,
Well, they lost.
because the Devils have played really well the last week and a half. I mean, odds are the Devils aren't making the playoffs, of course, but it goes in cycles. Like the Capitals started the year great, the Bruins started the year great, the Islanders started the year slowly. Now the Islanders are coming on, and you know what it's going to come down to in the playoffs? Who has the hottest goalie? That's really what it comes down to at the end, because really a goalie in hockey could carry a team. You know, a big part of the Flyers' problems have been this year. Between Elliott and Hart, they haven't bailed the team out at all. I mean, they haven't bailed the team out at all. You could argue they've hurt the team, but they certainly haven't bailed the team out. So when the team makes a couple of mistakes on defense, you count on the goalie to come through with some really big saves consistently. Look at the Ranger Flyer game yesterday. Do you know, the Rangers were up 6-2 at a point in the game when the Flyers had twice as many shots.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
It definitely tells me the goalie, the Rangers is playing a lot better than the goalie of the Flyers right now. So, I still think the Islanders are going to be the team to beat. I am right now going to go out on a limb and say they're going to win the East. That's what I think, Jack. The Penguins beat the lowly Sabres. Talk about a dumpster fire, Jack. I mean, the Sabres have just fallen apart.
I don't know. More important than this here, what's the Sabres' plans for the future? I mean, it's not just an aberration that things have gone bad this year. They haven't made the playoffs in a decade. And this was the year they were supposed to at least make a run at it. Stay in contention. And they've been awful. They've been the worst team in the NHL. And what are they going to do with Jack Eichel? They're one great player. They're one chip that they can trade. And they haven't even been, at least outwardly, they haven't been aggressively shopping him to do a do-over. And to have one great player on a terrible team doesn't really help. I mean, they might be best served just trading Eichel and getting a few young pieces where they could build again. But it's so hard to start a rebuild on top of a rebuild. Because if you've been rebuilding for years, and now the time has come to cash in on the rebuild and everything falls apart, to start all over the rebuild, that's very difficult to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jack, whenever you change coaches in any sport, of course, that new coach wants to do things his way, run a strategy or a system his way. So everything that you've been doing, that other coach had been doing for the last few years, it gets thrown out the window. The only two examples that I can think that are opposite that is when the Cowboys, when Jimmy Johnson left, and the next coach up, he just basically did the same thing Jimmy Johnson did. And same thing when Bill Walsh left the 49ers, when Seifert ended up using all the players and basically the same system that Walsh did. So, but for the most part, when a team gets a new head coach, a new GM, whatever the case may be, a lot of things get changed. It's like when you go to work as a normal person, and I've heard this over and over again. Well, this guy didn't know what he was doing. So they're going to tear everything up and put their own system in, even when some of the things in that system worked. And so that happens a lot in all sports. And I don't know, Jack. I don't know what's going to happen with Buffalo. I'm surprised because Buffalo, you would think, being from where they are up there north, would always have a competitive team. I'm just surprised.
Well, it's hard in any line of work when you're used to doing something a certain way, and then a new regime comes in, and it changes things. That's why you hear a lot about veteran players in all sports. They want to move on to another team.
Right.
because when a new coach comes in, it normally the team hasn't had the success they hope to have. And that player just is tired of it. He doesn't want to deal with the new guys sometimes. He rather start at a completely new environment. And it's a question when players want to change teams. It's like one of us wanting to change jobs, basically. But the difference is, even though they get paid obviously a lot greater and we feel they should put up with it based on what they get paid, they don't have the freedom we have. They can't just pack up and just go anywhere they want, unless, of course, they're free agent, but they have to work towards being a free agent.
Right. We have Byron Williams coming on next, Jack. I'm just resending.
In the beginning, Mac, I'm going to try to get my technical thing back in order. So when you have Byron first come on, I might go off for a little bit. But that's a good thing for you, because for a few minutes you might not have me interrupting you.
Right. Well, I just had to send him another link because I guess the first.
Right. I'll wait for Byron. I'm gonna.
That sounds good.
Ran into technical difficulty at the last moment. You and I, but that's like trying to fix the system here.
I hear you.
Backup. I'm on like the backup system now.
You are. Well, I hear you.
And the battery on the backup system, I don't think it's going to last to the end of the show. So I don't want to leave you hanging the last half hour. So I'm going to recharge the backup system and get my first system going.
Okay. A lot of systems going on there,
Today
Jack.
it's a mess.
Yes, it is. So I did send him the link again. So hopefully he gets it and we'll have him on. Interesting story yesterday in the NFL, speaking of that. Patriots offensive lineman stepped in, Justin Herron, and he's being called a hero. He stopped a sexual assault that was happening in a park where a 71-year-old woman, retired school teacher, was being sexually assaulted, and he went to her rescue. So there's a great story. And we have a lot of bad stories in the NFL. But there's a great story of an offensive lineman for the Patriots stepping in to save this lady, Jack.
And the person that committed the assault, what are you thinking? You're going to go to jail now. You're going to go to jail. You've screwed up your life.
Yeah.
What did you screw up your life for? I mean, if someone is committing a scam because they think they can gain money or something, that's evil, that's terrible, that's awful, that's unforgivable. But you can understand, they're trying to reap some type of financial benefit or something. What kind of stupid, whatever blankety blank does things like that. And it's so mean-spirited on top of that. And what is the person thinking? They're going to go to jail, and good riddance to the person that committed the crime.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. It wasn't like he broke into her apartment. He was doing it right in a public park.
Oh.
You would think that maybe he's very sick in the head, Jack. Right? I mean, that has to be. So doing that crime at any time is sick, but to do that like that out in public, dude, there's something wrong with that man. So. Congratulations to Justin Herron for doing the right thing. And
could I mention like a different type of assault yesterday that went on? I can't remember the player's name on the Flyers. Late in the game, they were very frustrated. He gets into a fight with the Ranger player, but he takes some cheap shots. He pulls his hair on the ice, and it looked like he tried to hit his head on the ice. I think that player should be suspended at least a year. No pay a year, and case closed. No tolerance for that.
Well, Jack, we got Byron in. We got him in studio backstage right now. We're gonna bring him on.
Okay. I'll try to be with you very quickly.
Okay, give me a second here, Jack. For all of you that follow us, Byron Williams is our NFL analyst. He's on every Friday at approximately 8:30, so he isn't that late, really. I mean, he's ready to rock. Byron's normally early, so that technical difficulty really didn't make him that much late. So let's bring Byron in. And Jack, if you got to check out for a minute,
I'm gonna check out. Okay, I'll join you guys in a moment.
Sounds good. How you doing today, Byron?
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Oh man, there's more technical stuff happening live today than has happened in a long time. I got Jack coming in and out. He's having problems with the system, and you didn't get the link. So, but that's part of being live. You got to kind of roll with the punches, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Matt, you can roll with punches, so you're good at that. No problem.
Thank you.
You can make those audibles and those adjustments. That's what's that works.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Byron, I was just talking to Jack about the Patriots offensive lineman who came to the rescue of that 71-year-old retired school teacher who was going to be sexually assaulted in a park out in public, Jack, Byron. So here's a guy doing the right thing, and I'm glad he's getting pubbed for it, because all we hear about it in sports really is the bad things, So something that he should get a lot of praise for, Byron.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good thing. I think a lot of times, you hear a lot of negative news in the off season, and news supposed to be sometimes got to be good and great, and that was good, and that's the way most football players are. I think they got a great heart and they want to do the right thing, and they never talk about the good things that's going on in these communities that a lot of players are doing behind the scenes, and I know a lot of players personally that are doing things never get talked about.
Yeah, I mean, all the community work that a lot of players do, as you said, including yourself, being a former wide receiver in the NFL and CFL and WFL. I mean, you too, Byron. I mean, we kind of brought a little light to your foundation over there, but I mean, it's just a little bit. I mean, I know the people in your area are very, very grateful for what you do. And Jack seems to be squared away. So let's see if we can, if he goes out again, guess what? I'm just banging him from the show today because, I can't deal with this. So
hey, you need to put it in.
This is Matt's fault.
If somebody don't show up, you got to fire him like Parcells did me. Late, find him $5,000.
This is his fault. Mac wanted me to adjust my headphones a certain way, and right before we went on the air, and everything kind of like fell apart. And I didn't have my backup, equipment quite charged, quite ready the whole way. So how do you hear me? Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you, Jack. And in fact, we're not echoing back through, which is why we were fooling around with your headphones. Well, I can hear myself a little bit, but not bad. So this is why Jack is not the greatest technically. He's a great writer and a great host. But technically, oh my God, you should see what happens off air. You wouldn't believe it. In fact, it's a show by itself off air.
When I cover fight from ringside, everyone else has their laptop. I'm the last of the guys with a pen and pad taking notes.
That's true. So Byron, we covered the good news there. Now let's go a little bit to the bad news because it's in the headlines and we got to cover it. Deshaun Watson. There's a pause from what I'm reading in other teams about actually trading for him. If they are offering trades for him, the value is very low right now. And the reason for that mainly is because the NFL now is investigating. And as you know, the commissioner could come in any time and either suspend him for NFL activities, suspend him for the year. He has a lot of power, or he may not do anything. We don't know. But, I mean, if you're a team that's looking to add Watson to your team, it's a little different now than it was, say a couple months ago, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a little different. It's a lot different, really. A lot of times what some of these players do off the field can be a tragedy, So right now it's not looking good. And I don't know who would want to put up with some of the things that happened. But also he probably do need to go to a new environment, new situation. And but what he do on the field is one thing, but what you do on the off the field is another thing. So these players need to understand that.
And I feel that teams have been let off the hook as far as public pressure goes, because even I'm not passing any judgment on Deshaun Watson. He might be completely innocent of everything. I don't know. I'm not passing judgment one way or the other. But under normal conditions, the teams would be under a lot of pressure. We see all over the New York tabloids, for example, the Jets should go after Deshaun Watson. In Miami, they'd be saying the Dolphins should go after him, and on and on and on. But now no one is putting pressure on those organizations. No one in New York is saying, oh, go after Deshaun Watson. Because of his situation, everyone's taking a wait-and-see attitude. But with the draft coming up, in reality, you can't really wait, much longer.
Right. I just hope it'll all figure out. But man, it's not a good case scenario. Not for him, and not for maybe some team that was interested in him. It's a whole different case scenario now. And man, it's just you got to be really, really. That's why I think a lot of these players need mentors or need somebody they can connect to, that know the game, that been there before, that gone through some ups and downs, but can give them some advice for life. Sometimes having some mentor, having some older guys around can enlighten you on what to do and what not to do, and it's critical. At this point, when a guy is 22 to 30 years old, that's the pivotal moment, especially in football, in National Football League.
Listen, I know on the surface, the more women that come forward, the worse it looks, okay? Because it's hard to imagine 15 women lying, and especially if the women are independent of one another. But we really still have to pass judgment because it's one attorney right now who's speaking against Watson, basically. And I'm not passing judgment one way or the other. But
right.
For all we know, the attorney could be going a bit overboard with things, or maybe he's not going overboard with things. But I caution everyone, let's just wait, because the police haven't gotten involved yet. If the NFL suspends Watson, that means there's enough evidence beforehand. They're not just going to suspend him unless there's something very seriously, on the table that they're looking at, okay? But let's, wait and see in the meantime.
Right. I agree with that completely, and I know that the NFL will definitely do their homework, and and we'll definitely find out more here pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, being a player's rep, Byron, does the NFLPA get involved in this at all? I mean, do they go talk to the commissioner, find out what's going on, so that the player and the players on that team or whatever are kept up to date on what's going on, or do you just work primarily with that player?
Yeah, the NFLPA, they definitely gonna be working on the player side to make sure that all the I's are dotted and make sure all the information is looked at. And J.C. Trotter, the Center for Cleveland, is the executive president on the current side, and they have a good team, good group of lawyers as well. So I'm pretty sure they're in touch and they know exactly what's going on. All the allegations and everything else is being investigated. So he's definitely getting represented by the NFLPA because that side is what just help navigate through the all the allegations and things. And so they both sides are working pretty together on what's solving the problems and things like that.
Now, in free agency, and we're going to get to Carlos' question in a little bit for you. We got one of our listeners that has a question for you about the draft. We'll get to that in a minute. The NFL free agency, I haven't seen this much action, and I've been following football for 40 plus years, Byron. I've never seen this much action in the offseason with the salary cap, letting players go, restructuring contracts, re-signing, getting new players. In my life, I mean, this has been crazy. The Giants, of course, you're the former Giant wide receiver, played under Bill Parcells. The Giants have made some really big moves in the weapon area, right? They got Kyle Rudolph, they got Galladay, they got Ross, the speedy guy from I think he's
Cincinnati.
from Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they're building with Saquon coming back, Booker backing them up. They re-signed Lewis. I mean, they're trying to get Daniel Jones the utmost weapons possible. And Jack feels, and I kind of agree with him, this is the year either Daniel Jones puts up or shuts up. And I mean, I know he's still young and everything, but there is no reason why the Giants shouldn't make a run at the playoffs with these weapons and shouldn't be competing every game.
Absolutely. I think they need to come up with an offensive strategy as well, kind of like Tampa Bay and Green Bay, having these optional plays for the receivers and the running backs. And I think they're gonna be very competitive. I mean, they was in every game this past year, so yeah, it's gonna be a year for Daniel to show show his maturity. This will be a good year for him. He ain't got no more excuses. Hopefully everybody can stay healthy, and the Giants can take a run at it.
Guys, it's funny. I look at these mock drafts. They're silly. I admit it's silly, but I like doing it. And Sports Illustrated just came out with their latest mock draft. And Sports Illustrated, they're reputable. I mean, they have a decent reputation in that regard. And they have your guy, Devonta Smith, falling to number 15 to the New England Patriots. And they have Mac Jones, who people thought the Patriots would take, going to the Steelers at number 24. So it would be funny if Devonta Smith was going to fall to number 15. That means the Giants would have bypassed on him.
Yeah.
You love Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I don't really too much look at those mock drafts because typically the first 5 picks are typically on point. After that, it can be a toss up. I mean, the players, the linebacker for Penn State, man, he ran a 4.39. This guy is fast as a receiver, and so it's gonna be some people that's graded higher than the other grades.
No, wait. I want to hold you to what you said or give you a chance to take it back. You said Devonta Smith is a generational receiver, the best receiver. One of the best receivers in a good decade to come out of college. He could be another, approach Jerry Rice, suppose. And maybe you didn't say that, but you were kind of hinting there that you basically are putting the guy in the Hall of Fame. Put it that way. He's the Hall of Fame talent.
Well, Tim Brown is a real good friend of mine. He won the Heisman.
Yeah.
He reminded me of Tim Brown. The way he worked on and off the football field. His approach, he just needs to gain a little weight, get a little bit muscle mass on him, right? So I'm thinking that this guy can compete. He can be a Hall of Famer. He can probably catch 12 to 15,000 yards, and I'm thinking that he has the skill set to do that.
There you go. Carlos asked you, will the Giants add an offensive lineman in the first round, Byron? What do you think?
I don't think they'll go back-to-back offensive linemen in the first round. They had Thomas last year. It's some other good players down the line. I don't think I don't see them going back-to-back with an offensive lineman.
Me either. I think they got depth there this year, and I think all it takes is more chemistry. They seem to run the ball better at the end of the year and protect Jones a little bit better near the end of the year. So I think it's just another year they need together. Playing together as one unit. And of course, they re-signed I'm trying to remember his name now. New England, I think that's Slater. I'm trying to remember who they re-signed, the tackle. Solder. They re-signed Solder maybe to compete with Burt. So I mean, to me, they're young, they're tough, and all they need to do is kind of blend a little bit this year, Byron.
I think so too. I mean, yeah, they do have they got a young offensive lineman, a lot of young offensive linemen. So I think the chemistry will be there this year. And of course, in the middle of the season last year, the offensive lineman coach left, and so I think Judge is getting the players and the coaches together. I think the Giants are gonna be very competitive. I'm picking them right now, Jack.
Listen, Joe Judge isn't under the
Whitneys.
microscope. He's not on the hot seat next year, but I think his situation is going to be similar to Daniel Jones. 6-10 last year, he could get away with. They contended a weak NFC East. But if they go 6-10 again, and and someone else wins the NFC East, let's say with a 9-7, 10-6, there's going to be some discontent. And I was a little annoyed at Joe Judge last year. He started making comments about Tom Brady out of nowhere, saying he was really a system quarterback. So I hold that against Joe Judge. He looked like some system quarterback before the year was out. Maybe Joe Judge that's like saying Joe Judge is essentially a special teams coach who's working as a head coach. I mean, it was kind of insulting, I thought. And so, I know he wanted to be loyal to Bill Belichick with the criticism Belichick was getting, but I think he crossed into a boundary. He had no business crossing into, at least publicly. I got that off my chest. It kind of annoyed me a while. So I can move on now from that.
Well, the one thing that would crush that was win games and be better than the 6-10 record. So you're absolutely right, though. I think
I mentioned to Lance Meadow, Kyle Rudolph, they signed as a tight end. Lance Meadow said, well, teams could use 2 tight ends. I meant Evan Ingram, too. I kind of feel one guy has to be the man at tight end. I know any position can use 2 guys, obviously, but I can't imagine it going 50-50, Rudolph and Ingram. Either Ingram got it or he doesn't. I know he had a case of the drops, but either he becomes an elite tight end or move on from him. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think too, 2 tight ends work now because you don't have that traditional fullback anymore. So they might be thinking something along those lines as well. Kyle Rudolph, he's one of the best tight ends out here. I think that's a good move for them as well. But you're absolutely right. It's usually one guy, but I could see them using both tight ends, really.
Well, they're two different players, right? Rudolph can stay on the line and block during running plays. He's that good. Right. Evan Ingram is not the best blocker in the world, and Rudolph has better hands than Ingram. But Ingram, of course, is a little more explosive. So, I mean, they're 2 different players, can be utilized 2 different ways. You could see Rudolph maybe playing every down and Ingram coming in during passing downs or when they want to run a pass. So I can see them using 2 tight ends and Rudolph maybe being the premier tight end running and passing. So, I mean, great hands, big 6'6" guy, great red zone tight end to catch some touchdown passes, and hopefully they utilize him that way.
And another thing too, Ingram can learn a lot from Rudolph. Good point.
I mean, listen, maybe they got to go. Maybe Ingram's got to go to that concentration.
Well, let's have a New York trade. Ingram to the Jets for Sam Darnold.
Never happened.
No, it's not happening.
That won't happen. It makes sense, though.
Yeah, it could.
I don't know why they would want Sam Darnold when they already got Daniel Jones there right now as their future quarterback. So I guess we'll see. The Jets, speaking of the Jets, they pick up the ex-running back, Tevin Coleman, who played underneath Saul over there at San Francisco. And I knew this kind of stuff was going to happen, Byron. When you have a coach that's a coordinator that moves to another team, they're either going to take some coaches with him like he did or some players coming up on contracts or maybe trade for him because of familiarity. So good move by the Jets?
Yeah, I think a good move. You want players in there in the locker room that good character guys as well, on and off the football field that you can depend on. And I think that's a great move for the Jets.
I'm surprised Richard Sherman hasn't made his way to the Jets yet. Being with Salah, liking him in San Francisco. You talk about a locker room presence, a loud voice. Even though I think he's a blowhard some of the time, he has a loud voice who could keep guys in check for the coach.
Yeah, he'll be a good added veteran to the locker room as well. On and off the football field, he's a highly respected player that that carry a lot of weight, on and off the football field.
Yeah, I agree. And he's a good running back, too. He's a very solid running back. So I'm sure the Jets need one of those. Well, the Jets need a lot of stuff. We'll see.
Oh,
What happens.
Richard Sherman we're talking about.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, I don't – I'm not saying I don't like Richard Sherman. I think he's a pretty good cornerback, tall, but I think he's getting a little old in the tooth right now. So I don't know if that would help the Jets or not. I mean, they got burned quite a bit last year. I don't know if Sherman would help them. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to talk to Keith Angle about the pass when he comes up. He's on after you, Byron. But the Patriots have gone a little crazy in free agency. The latest signing was their running back from last year, White. I think that was a very big signing for him. Like I said, we'll talk to Keith about it, but I want your opinion. When you got a running back that can catch the ball, run with the ball, is solid. He was hurt a little bit last year. I mean, you want to keep those guys around, right? I mean, you want a little bit of versatility when it comes to your offense.
Absolutely, yeah. White he just got injured last year, but the previous years, he helped win a lot of those Super Bowls and put him in a position to go to playoff every year. So I think Belichick knows what he got in White, and that's why they keep him around. I mean, he's a good player still with a lot of upside, and the injury wasn't that bad last year. Hopefully, he's working hard this offseason, but I think that was good for and then Belichick want players to come in that know they're gonna make right decisions on and off the football field.
Definitely. Belichick.
What are they going to do with the quarterback situation, Byron? I mean, I like Cam Newton. Don't misunderstand me. I think with the right pieces around him, Cam Newton can maybe get it done, but he's not the ideal situation, to start at New England. If they have to, I know they can go with them, but are they going to address it, you think, in the draft? Is Mac Jones going to go to them, you think, or not?
I think that might be a good move. I think it'll be a key move for them to get Mac Jones because he's probably 1 year off from being the kind of guy you need on your team to lead your team because of him need a little bit more material, but he's a hell of a player. He's really his rating going up in the in the combine. With them looking at these quarterbacks and rating these quarterbacks, Mac Jones can be a good fit for the Patriots because Cam Newton, he on and off. He's a material guy that don't know whether he want. That's why they signed into a 1 year deal, and so that 1 year deal is positioning them to get the Mac Jones.
So Byron, before we let you go, what do you see the Giants moving to in the draft? We got that big draft show coming up. Hopefully, we'll get you in when they make that pick. What do you think? I mean, defensively, they got a great defensive line. Their linebacker core is pretty good. Their defensive back core is now their starting lineup is solid, experienced. The offensive line is young. Where do they go with their first draft pick?
That's interesting. They don't fill a lot of gaps too this offseason, re-signing everybody. They still might get a receiver, I think, but it got to be defensive back. He's maybe a linebacker, but I think a linebacker might be a key component for him in that position to add with Martinez and those guys. The kid, I was really impressed with the kid from Penn State.
Cam,
Yeah.
Cam
So
Brown.
I'm thinking that they got to go. He's a wide receiver. I don't think they want to spend that money on a wide receiver because there's so many other some good wide receivers in the draft still. But it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna have to study a little bit more on that. I mean, Jack might know a little bit more. He's been studying real hard. I know he's trying to beef up the Giants roster versus the Jets.
No, I mean, listen, I like the big names. Okay, that's what gets me excited in the draft. I know that's not what wins in the long run, but I like to hear, I'd be a terrible GM. I'd see Devonta Smith there. I would grab him also. Okay?
I would
want to
too.
grab him pretty early. And a lot of times it's better to go for an offensive lineman. Look, my mentality, would have been along the lines of Jerry Jones when he wanted to draft Johnny Manziel, and everyone in the Cowboy front office, including his son Stephen Jones, is saying, no, we want, Zach Martin. And Jerry Jones is going around the whole room trying to get support. He's very upset. Finally, he gives in, okay? And also, John Gruden talked about drafting Johnny Manziel #1 overall. He went something like 24th, as it turned out. But some of those big-name players I find very, intriguing. So I wouldn't be the best GM. It's the guys that slip under the radar that are the difference makers.
Yeah, the one interesting thing that I look at in the offseason like this is the grade that these teams get. You mentioned John Gruden. The Raiders, they got an F right now. They are not doing too well, this offseason, making decisions with their players. And some of the players are leaving. So, I'm looking at the grades that some of these teams are getting, the A's and the B's and the C's and some of the F's, so very interesting that you said that.
One more question from you from Carlos before we let you go. Do you believe that the teams can win with the Shanahan system? Of course, we know Shanahan, the son of the great coach, that was Super Bowl winning coach, and it looked like San Fran a couple of years ago, they had a pretty good offense, Byron.
Absolutely. I think the Shanahan system is still up and good. I just think you have to have that quarterback in place to compete and get a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But, of course, the 49ers had a lot of injuries last year as well that hurt them. And, you only get – it's a small window of going back to the Super Bowl or even competing at the Super Bowl. It's all depending on the health of the players, the chemistry of the players, and some of the timing that happens on and off the football field. So, but the Shanahan system is really good.
What I liked about his system, Byron, was the way he designed the running plays, not just the passing plays. And if you watched the other people, the tight ends, the wide receivers, making the blocks downfield, San Francisco had a very potent running game 2 years ago, and that took a lot of pressure off Garoppolo. The plays are designed really well from what I saw.
Absolutely, and that's why I say his system worked, and no doubt, it's been proven. That system got some Super Bowls attached to it.
What's the difference between the West Coast offense and the rest of the NFL offense? I don't go, this West Coast offense that supposedly was invented by Bill Walsh. It means a lot of shorter passes or whatever. What exactly is the main difference? I just don't see it, but I keep hearing the term over and over and over.
Yeah, it's the system of the personnel, the timing of the routes, as well as how quickly the quarterback get the ball out of their hands.
Yeah,
and so that's the system. It's a fast-paced system. It's a system, you want to get 5 or more.
You got Joe Montana and Steve Young in San Francisco. You could call it any system you want with those guys. They could do anything.
I'm gonna call it the JB system, the Jack and Byron system. We got to get the ball out of their hands.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think the timing and the types of players that you have in your lineup as well. You want to create the fast. You got the fast receivers, you got the deep threat receivers, and so that those are the different types of personnel that you have to make in those different types of offenses.
Well, Jack is wrong again. Bill Walsh didn't invent it. Fran Tarkenton did. He got rid of the ball very fast.
That was never called the West Coast system of Fran Tarkenton.
When he called his plays way back when, he used the tight ends a lot, the running backs a lot.
He didn't play in the West Coast, Fran Tarkenton. Minnesota's not the West Coast.
I understand that, Jack. I'm saying the system itself.
You were talking his style of play, though. That's what he
Yes.
He was a scrambler. He ran around.
He made Bob Tucker an All-Pro, and Bob Tucker was no All-Pro, and Ron Johnson was unbelievable out of backfield for him. So, and with Chuck Foreman too. So, this has been going on for years. We like to, call it different names, but it's a great system. It works well if you can feature the tight ends and the running backs out of the backfield. It's been for years. So
and the only thing that really have changed is the fullbacks. You know, the fullbacks more the blocking type guys, the bucket guys. But now you got these tight ends. These tight ends have really changed the whole dynamic of the offense as well.
I agree with that because they're a lot more athletic than they were back then because they used
Byron, with tight ends. I'll never think of this again. Tony Gonzalez or Gronk. Who would you take?
Oh, boy, both of those are good. Hey, you just have to flip the coin up. Whichever one want to come in that day and play because you know you can't go wrong with both of those guys.
No.
Those guys are awesome tight ends.
They
Hall of Famers. They both.
I agree, and you know I wouldn't feel too bad if I had Witten on my team in his prime either. So I mean you're talking some unbelievable tight ends. Byron, again, thank you for coming in. Keep up your foundation. Give it a real quick plug before you leave. The charity that you sponsor out there.
Yeah, it's the Best Wishes Foundation. You know, we helping these homeless kids and man, ever since I've been elected president of the Dallas chapter, I've been busy talking to different, you know, and helping the players. You know, Charles Haley got tackled tomorrow. It's a mental case of trying to buy computers for kids in the school. So it's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on right now that I'm involved in. Just did Drew Pearson podcast. You know, he's going to the Hall of Fame. Me and Drew, I put a picture up on my Facebook with Drew, and he had a good time this week. And, you know, I talked to Too Tall Jones and all these guys. So it's a lot going on over here in Dallas and off the football field trying to get some things done in the offseason.
Excellent, Byron. We appreciate you coming in every week, giving us a look at a player's view instead of just an analyst or a reporter. You're invaluable to the show. And I mean, you were a great player for the time that you played. You know, I mean, you're not going to be in a Hall of Fame environment, but man, you made an impact on the field when you played. So
let me tell you, when Byron's talking with them about the old days, like Drew Pearson, Charles Haley, I know what goes on. They're talking about that they were real players, not like the guys around today. I know what the conversation's about.
Of course it is. They're always, and the stories get bigger and bigger as you get older. I know.
Well, one thing that Drew Pearson talked about is how the defensive back just come up and just tackle you on the line of scrimmage. And hold you back. But yeah, you're right, Jack. It was a different game back in the day.
He's saying the way he would clean up today. You know, if he were playing. I know.
So Byron, you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, my friend.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yes, Byron.
Okay, bye.
So there you go, Jack. Byron Williams up off to the break, folks. We have Keith Angle, a very knowledgeable talk show host. He does himself over at TGI Sports. We'll be up with him right after these breaks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting the stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, the legendary boxing writer himself, Jack Hirsch. And Jack, I mean, what a storm we weathered today, this morning, with technical difficulties. It was
not over yet, Mac. It's not over yet. Don't declare victory yet.
Well, listen, I'm going to claim victory for right now. And we'll see.
I should be okay. Well, I had to fix my headphones. It set off a reaction and everything, and then I tried to go a step further. I tried to repair the problem.
Yeah.
With my limited knowledge. Okay,
right,
not knowing what I was doing. In other words, I was like a pitcher who decided he wanted to play second base without any experience at second base and figuring I can make the throws from second to first. You know, that reminds me of a quick little story, very quickly. I'm not going to keep waiting on this. Jorge Posada in an extra inning game. It was late at night. It was like 2 a.m. They put him at second base. And the umpire was laughing with Jorge. And the ground balls hit to Jorge. He fields it. He threw so violently to first base, he nearly injured the first baseman who had to stretch. A short throw to first. He was totally out of sync, you know, unlike being the catcher he was when he threw down to second.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, at least it wasn't a Chuck Knobloch's throw where he lost first base altogether and they had to move him into the outfield. So up next, we got the host of TGI Sports Talk, Keith Angle. Very knowledgeable man. He comes in every week and Friday, and we kind of talk a little bit about the Patriots, a little bit about the Knicks, and we're also talking about the NCAA tournament. So let's bring Keith up, Jack.
Hey, guys.
What's going on?
Hey, real quick, Chuck Knobloch, the Yankees for a while were handing out batting helmets to people behind first base when Chuck Knobloch started having his problems. He actually beamed, if you remember, Keith Olbermann was on SportsCenter for a long time and MSNBC and forever. His mother actually got hit in the face by Chuck Knobloch on an errant throw.
Oh, no, is that a joke? You serious?
No, that's a true story.
Where was his mother, though?
His mother was sitting in the stands behind first base.
Wow.
Yeah, and one of Chuck's errant throws beamed her.
Actually, they moved him to left field eventually.
They did, yeah.
I don't think he had throwing problems from the outfield.
There's some certain situations where something happens mentally to these players. And
you guys, Steve Sachs had the same problem back in the day.
Soriano too.
Some
Well,
guys,
you had even the
catchers. Mackie Sasser couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you had Steve Blass, who won 2 games in the
Another good
1971
example.
World Series, who should have been the MVP, but they gave it to Roberto Clemente because Clemente was a more popular choice, and not a bad choice.
Well, then he had a pretty good series, by the way.
But Steve Blass won 2 games in that series, and then I think it was the following year he couldn't get the ball over the plate.
Yeah. Steve Blass disease, I think, was actually a real term in baseball for a long time. Just to point out that.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get to the little Pats news that we have. Heron, offensive lineman for the Patriots, saved a woman in the park from being sexually assaulted, a 71-year-old retiree.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to Byron before, we hear all the bad stories that are coming out about players, but we don't really hear the good stories, what they do, outside football. And this is a super story, Keith.
It's a great story. And you're right, Mac. We don't hear enough of these types of things where I don't think it's because they're not happening. I mean, I don't think it's what sports outlets or news outlets think sells, right? It's the bad stuff that sells. This isn't an isolated incident. These things go back many, many years. You remember a great running back, Joe Delaney from
Yeah.
the city, who saved 2 kids and a mother, I think, all 3 of them, from drowning and drowned himself. He couldn't swim.
Right.
I was going to mention that. Very good, Keith. Yeah, we honored. That was decades ago. But
Yeah.
What a hero!
And he was a superstar running back. And this is, these are stories that get lost, and we should be celebrating them more than, we talk about, and I tend to do it too. I talk about the Domingo Hermans, who, wife beating and this, that, the other thing, and we don't focus on the positive stuff enough. I agree.
I mean, there's so many charities that these guys work for, Byron being one, an ex-player. But
yeah.
I mean, you hear these stories where, Breeze, all these guys, they do community work that really doesn't get enough credit.
All the stuff Drew Brees did after Katrina in New Orleans is you can't even calculate what that must have meant to that community. So.
And then he makes one wrong remark, and it's like a little while that all the good work counted for nothing.
Yep, that's the world we live in today.
Yeah,
that's the truth. So the Patriots, of course, as we all know, have just about have just about signed a whole team. I hear rumors that the Patriots are going to move up. Believe it or not, the Falcons and them are trying to maybe work out a deal where they move up in the draft into the Falcons spot and get their quarterback. Any legitimacy to that, Keith?
I would like my gut says to say no, because it's not Bill Belichick's history to move up in drafts. He moves down, collects more draft picks if he moves at all. But I'm hearing this too often. I've heard it it's in the Boston papers, it's in the New York papers, it's in the more, not just in the Boston market and people with wishful thinking. So maybe there's something to it. They're in a position to do it. I mean, as you said, they brought in and filled a lot of the holes they would have to fill. They need some offensive linemen, but you can get them late. Well, assuming you're doing it, drafting well, you can get them later. They're in a position to trade up if they want to do it.
Keith, I think you'll be smart at the latest Sports Illustrated mock draft. It has your guy, Devonta Smith, going to New England, then bypassing Mac Williams. I think that would make you happy, right?
It would make me very happy, but I've seen it in a couple of mock drafts now. I'd be surprised for a couple of reasons. Well, I wish it would happen. They've strengthened the position. That's number one. Number two, he doesn't have a great history, Bill Belichick, with drafting wide receivers early, and N'Keal Harry just being the latest example. And he's probably on his way out of town for a 5th round draft pick. So I don't know, Jack. I wishful thinking. I would love to see Devonta Smith there, but we need a quarterback to throw him the ball.
You would pick Devonta Smith over Mac Jones if they were both on the board. Is that what you're saying for New England?
I would. I'm not a big Mac Jones fan, so
but you would.
Part of me wants to see them make the move and trade up and get a Zach Wilson, or I'm not adjusting. There's only a couple of guys that I'd want. Ty Lance, I like because they're not getting Lawrence, obviously. Zach Wilson and Ty Lance, if they can trade up and get either one of those guys, I would consider doing it if it was me.
We'll see what happens. We talked about, about signing the running back. Let me get to him real quick. White.
James White.
Yeah, very, very versatile. Very catches the ball, runs with the ball really hard, hurt a little bit, but they did sign him back, and I think that was a good move too, Keith.
Yeah, he had a tough year this past year. A lot of things going on with James White with injuries and personal issues, and when James White is right, he is a very, very valuable contributor to that team. And as you saw in that comeback against Atlanta in the Super Bowl a few years back, he can just change the whole complexion of a game. And I thought he was one of the most important free agents they still had out there after their free agency blitzkrieg there.
I agree with that. So
blitzkrieg, that's not really offending anybody from World War
Just let me
II.
ask him that quickly. Stephen Gilmore, he was out of town a while ago. He's somehow hanging around. What the heck's going on there? I'm shocked he's still with them.
Well, the problem is, their backfield is a bit diminished. Patrick Chung, who would have come back from after opting out last year, is retiring. Devin McCourty signed, but his brother is a free agent. They may not bring him back. So Jackson's a restricted free agent. They want a two back for him, so I don't know that he'll go anywhere. But defensive backfield, which has been a strength for the Patriots for quite a while, and deep, could be an issue. So they may hang on to him, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see him part of a draft day trade either.
So Carlos said if he was
just giving this to us, we'll just take it.
Oh, come on, Carlos. I mean, listen, with all the quarterbacks out there, between Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, the Jets, as long as they're going to take one of those two at the second overall pick. If they trade down a little bit, that means they're interested in Mac Jones, by some chance. But they're probably all indications are the Jets are going to go number 2. It's a question whether it's going to be Wilson or Fields.
Now, Carlos did point out that, he doesn't think they'll take a quarterback. I'm talking about wishful thinking. The smart part of me, which is only about this much, but I don't think he'll take a quarterback in the first round either. It's just based on his history.
Well, you know something, Keith? I disagree with you. I think if those two guys are there, he's going to take them. So
I'm talking about the Jets here, what they're going to do with the second pick. New England might not have much say at number 15. The elite college quarterbacks will be gone.
We're saying if he moves up, if they move up into the 6th position or something, they'll be there for that pick.
Yeah, I don't think he takes a quarterback if he stays put. But if they're going to take a quarterback, they're going to move up. So I'd like to know what Carlos would like for that second pick. He didn't say what we have to give him.
So Keith, let's move on to the Knicks. Next, they come from behind in a big win last night. Burke had a big game. I mean, Burke's been playing really well off the bench for him. They moved Barrett back to forward. He had a good game. The Knicks fans are funny because I'll review real quick what they're thinking as the game's going on. Oh, the Knicks look terrible. They blew it in free agency. They're just a terrible team. Get rid of Dolan. Get rid of the G. I mean, the Knicks fans, New York fans are very fickle. They want what they want when they want it.
It's very tough, and we've talked about a couple of times on this show where Leon Rose has done a great job to this point. Thibodeau's done a great job to this point, getting them competitive and playing an exciting brand of basketball and getting interest back in the team. And the fans are excided. It's going to last.
I don't think the fans are complaining, Matt.
I'm telling you what I'm reading, Jack. I'm telling you what I'm reading. I don't care what you're thinking. I'm saying I'm reading the Knicks fans' sites, and they were complaining. They were saying we got a shell of a team now. We didn't do anything. I'm telling you what they were saying. So what I'm saying is that New York fans, I don't care if you have a Super Bowl quarterback, if they don't do something in the first 3 games, they're trash. And that's how a lot of New York fans are, and I'm embarrassed, Jack.
What did Ralph Cramden say on the honeymoon is some people are never satisfied.
Well, that's true. And you know
But
what?
listen, the Knicks can, as long as they make the playoffs, they could get swept. It's been a successful year. But I think looking forward, they've got to address the point guard situation because I don't think Derrick Rose is a long-term solution. And they really don't have a point guard, period, right now.
I still think Quickly is a good guy myself. I like Quickly. He's not a
He's not a point guard,
He's
though.
not a pass first point guard, but he is a point guard and can play the position well, and has.
He's not the type of guy you want running your offense. I mean, he's young, so on. He's just not cut out for it.
Well, they're definitely going to make some moves because – hold on, I got something playing in my ear here. Sorry. Sorry. Video started up. I didn't know where the music was coming from. What was I going to say? So you mentioned the future. I mean, they're definitely going to do something come the offseason. They got $60 million in cap space to play with in the offseason. Now, it's not the best free agency class out there, but...
Well, they talk about Ball coming from New Orleans. What would be the price? It would be a heavy price to pay. And Quickly, I would think, would be part of a deal going to New Orleans.
It's hard to say. I mean, I've heard that it's not going to take a big player to get Ball. It's going to take draft picks, high draft picks, and the Knicks are in a position where they can afford to trade their draft picks, to be honest with you. I mean, they got a gazillion second-round picks.
Second-round picks, you even said it on the past show, Keith.
No,
they're not that valuable. Let's be honest. Not in the NBA. In the NFL, they are, but not in the NBA.
And they'd have to trade a first-round pick. And I'll be honest with you, the position that they're in right now, I think they can afford to trade a first-round pick for the right player and not worry about it. Because we've got a core of young guys here who can play the game. Yeah, don't forget about Barrett. You talked up Burks and how well he played the other night. Barrett played well. He didn't shoot the ball well in the first half especially, but he is starting to play bigger and bigger in big moments, and he crashes the boards. The guy's led the team in rebounds again last night.
But he doesn't run the offense, though.
No, I'm just talking about building blocks right now. I agree that the point guard position is going to, they have to figure it out. It's either Quickly. Rose is good to have around, but Rose isn't going to play, 5 more years, most likely. So there's some things to address, and I'm glad. I know we talked here, and I was looking for the different times, but again, it changes on a week-to-week basis what you're watching and what you're seeing and what you think they need. Originally, I was thinking, yes, I would move Barrett and try to bring in a Beal or try to bring in
Oladipo,
but I'm glad they stayed put yesterday. I really am. They still got some money to pick up maybe a Drummond or I know there's a couple other names being passed around there. Otto Porter, guys that are going to get bought out here in the next week or so. They've got $14 million to play with here this year that they could get a guy in here like Drummond or Porter, to contribute in the second half.
They're not going to make a serious run at the NBA title no matter what move they make this year. It's not like the Miami Heat, who added Oladipo and now LaMarcus Aldridge supposedly is the front runner to go to Miami. That would make Miami a genuine contender to come out of the East. They would join, the Nets, Sixers, and Bucks to see who comes out of it. The Knicks can't make any moves where they're going to be a serious contender to come out of the East.
No, unless injuries, totally disabled. Well, again, you got Miami coming back up. I think Miami's going to get themselves back in the conversation. Milwaukee's really playing good basketball.
They have gotten back in the conversation.
Who knows what's going to happen with the Nets? Somehow they keep winning. They lost one game this week, but they still keep winning without Durant, and now they're all out. Irving's out, and
they didn't exactly look too good against the Jazz, who beat them by 30 the other nights.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the Nuggets were the big winner yesterday. I thought they made a lot of moves that helped them out west. So the West is loaded, though, man. It's you look at the East, and there's going to be teams that don't finish 500 that are going to be in the playoffs most likely, and the West is just loaded. You're going to have teams probably more than just a few games over 500 that are staying home for the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I mean that deal was not the big deadline that we were all talking about with the Knicks really didn't come to fruition. I mean, we picked up a couple guys that may be good for depth, And of course, you know the Cleveland center is still in the conversation. But Jack makes a good point. Do you really want a big guy like that in there clogging up the middle?
Andre Drummond.
Yeah, we've talked about it here too. I have my doubts that that's really a smart move to make. And he's got not only is he clogging up the middle, but right now you're playing guys that you don't need to run plays for, right? So the other guys can share the basketball. You bring this guy in, he's going to expect plays to be run for him because he's also a shooter, you know.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned Mac to Keith about Obi Toppin, and Keith says he's young. Let's be patient. It seems like he's not on the good side of Tom Thibodeau right now.
No, he's kind of fallen out of the rotation a bit. I think he got 11 minutes the other night. Again, he's a work in progress. My comments start to look worse every game, it seems, but sticking up for Toppin. But some guys are just a project. And maybe he's not going to contribute this year if he falls out of the rotation. I don't know that means his Knick career is over either. But
well, Keith, let me tell you, in basketball, if you don't come in and you aren't, I'll give Quickly credit. Quickly's come in and at least he's put up some points and has done some things. Toppin hasn't done anything. And if you can't come in and get 11 points and at least make 11 minutes and can't make a point, I think there must be a little bit more concern there about whether he's going to even be something that we want to keep. Or even try to keep, because if he can't make a few points in 11 minutes or 15 minutes, then there's a problem there.
Don't forget though, Mac, that he started out a little behind everybody else because he had some injuries in training camp, and again, it was truncated training camp, and it's a different year than we've seen in the past, and I'm just not ready to give up on the kid after 40 games. I think he's still got some potential, and if the Knicks, he's liable to be a guy that gets moved if they were to make a big trade. But I love his talent. I think there's still something there, and there's plenty of guys who have washed out of their team, as you say. In the NBA, you're expected to contribute quicker than what he is.
Especially when you're the number 5 overall pick in the draft.
Agreed, and I'm afraid if he gets traded, then he's going to be a really good player. Maybe he'll never be a great player, but he'll be a really good player someplace else.
Well, that's possible. But I again, there's only 12 guys on a team, and if he can't come in and the expectations were, you may see him, like you said, you may see him leaving.
Mac, it does. We got to think about your comments from before about the New York, not just the fans, but the media. I mean, there's some guys like Toppin. I mean, once they start down the road bad, it's hard for them to rebound in New York just because of the pressures that are there from not only the fan base, which I'll alienate people by when people talk about them being the most sophisticated and the smartest fans in the sports. I'm a New York fan except for the Patriots, and they are by far the smartest people in the world as a whole. There's some very smart fans. Don't take offense, please.
Oh, I'm not. I don't think
letters. I'm going to get letters now.
I think he's a highlight reel for the fans. If the Garden was packed, we were living in normal times. They'd look forward to Toppin. His assortment of dunks, high flying act.
Yeah,
but whatever.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens with them. Let's touch base on the NCAA tournament. We still got some East teams in there. We got Villanova, Creighton, last time I checked, and Syracuse. Today they got Loyola at Oregon State. That's a Cinderella story there. I would love to see them beat Oregon State and stay alive.
Loyola's going to go to Final Four. I got news for you. That's a really good basketball team. After beating Illinois, they're going to Final Four.
Well, we'll see, Keith. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I love the story. Villanova at Baylor. I mean, Villanova's played without Gillespie. They're tenacious. They're a tough team. But
Baylor's clicking on all cylinders right now. They're playing really good basketball, and I don't see Villanova being able to give them a game.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's one game and you're out, so anything can happen.
It can. Well, we've seen a lot of anything can happen so far. I think this tournament's tied a record, I think, for upsets, which is 5 seeds, a team seeded 5 seeds below the team they beat. I think they've tied a record already through 2 rounds.
Oklahoma's Lon Kruger retired after like a 45-year coaching career. Why would he announce it right before the Sweet 16 unless he doesn't want it to be news, wants to keep it as quiet as could be? I mean, the timing of it seems a little strange.
It is a little odd, I guess, but I'm not surprised he's stepping down. He's had a long career, and he's had some ups and downs. He's really done a really good job in a lot of the places he's been. I mean, he started out at Kansas State and had that team playing well. He went to Florida, which was a wasteland for basketball when he got there, and he took them to a Final Four, got him into the NBA. He kind of washed out of the NBA like a lot of college guys do, but had some good years at UNLV and got the job at Oklahoma, where he's done a good job. Why he makes the announcement now, I don't know. I mean, it seems a little odd, but I don't think it takes any of the shine. It's not like, Coach K announced his retirement during the Sweet 16. So,
and how can we make a big deal, guys? Final Four in the NCAA. A Final Four means nothing in the NFL, means nothing in Major League Baseball, hockey. Only in college basketball do we make a big deal over like a Final Four.
Well, they do in college hockey as well, by the way.
Okay, well.
But
well, I don't know.
The games, I think,
I don't know about that, Jack. I think if you make it the championship or the pennant, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, I think it's a big deal. I mean, it's not as big as the World Series, but it's I think it's a big
deal. But we don't remember it the same way, but we remember all these college, basketball teams that went to a Final Four.
Because it's the way it's the marketing. It's the market.
It's the tournament.
The way the game's marketed, right? Is the elite.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It does matter who wins. Don't get me wrong. I mean, but for some of these schools like Loyola and back in the day, St. Bonaventure and Jacksonville, for them to get to Final Fours was a huge accomplishment when you're there with the UCLAs of the world, right?
Yeah.
Well, Keith, you brought up the amount of upsets, and I don't believe they're upsets because with the COVID, they played everybody in their division. So, I mean, there was no outside the division play this year, really. I mean, everybody thought the Big Ten was better than what they were because they're playing against themselves. They're not going over and playing, some of the stronger teams. So I think it's more or less the COVID and not traveling and playing teams in your division more this year than it is the upsets themselves.
When I say upsets, I'm just going strictly by the definition of the word and the way the teams have been seeded. A lot of teams were seeded way too low that Loyola should not have been, an 8 seed. They're better than that. They didn't get a chance, as you mentioned, Mac, they didn't get a chance to show their wares outside of the Missouri Valley Conference. So they don't get that high seed. That team could have been probably a 4 seed. And
you mentioned
that changes their whole path.
You mentioned COVID. I'll tell you, the NCAA might be on pins and needles right now because we could get to the Final Four and one team could have a number of cases with COVID. And the one thing they can't afford is to have a forfeit. Can you imagine a Final Four? One team automatically goes into the finals and the other team has to win 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nightmare scenario. I wouldn't say it's out of the question that the tournament could get delayed at some point if we have another outbreak. Obviously, we're too invested in the tournament to just end it. It's going to run to its conclusion, but it might not go on schedule.
I don't think it'll happen. I think they may adjust their thinking. Right now, the thought is, doesn't matter when it happens, that there's going to be no contest and the team moves forward. Doesn't matter if it's the semifinal or the final. But I think they may adjust that thinking. I don't think for this next round.
They have to.
I think you get to the Final Four, you've got to delay the tournament, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Otherwise, it would really be right. I mean, it'd be unfair to a team like Gonzaga to go undefeated and get a pass into the final or a pass at the final. People are already talking about an asterisk for this season, and which is unfair to Gonzaga, by the way, or whoever wins. I talk about Gonzaga only because they're undefeated and they're the only team with a chance to remain undefeated. But I think that would make it worse for whoever the champion is if they were to.
I think people forget the Lakers last year. They talked about an asterisk, COVID shortened season. right now we look at the Lakers as being the NBA champions last year. Case
I'm not an asterisk guy in any event. I mean, the seasons are what they are. Should Roger Maris have gotten an asterisk in '61? Why? I mean, he played the rules that were in play at the time.
Yeah, we had a big debate about that, Keith. If you're going to put asterisks, where do you start? Where do you stop?
Yeah, right. They could be everywhere if you're going to start an asterisk up.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it should be up. Just tell a story and let the people make their own decision.
Agreed.
Whether it's valid personally or not to them. Tomorrow you have, like I said, you had Syracuse against Baylor. Listen, I mean, anything can happen. It would be a huge upset if Syracuse won.
Houston,
right? I mean, against Houston. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm not counting Syracuse out.
You can't. It's funny. This happens now every year. It seems that Syracuse is on the bubble. They're in, they're out. They're in, they're out. But once they get there, they win a couple games, or they get to a Final Four with Coach Boeheim, who gets a lot of grief here in the East, even among Syracuse fans. And I had Sonny Spira he played for Coach Boeheim in the 80s, and it just irks him to no end that Boeheim does not get his due diligence. He is a great coach, and he's a great coach when you get to this tournament. He's better. He sometimes is better with teams that people aren't going to think will win than the teams that are supposed to win. I mean, this team, again, you would see them square. There's a very good potential that you're going to see a Syracuse Loyola regional final.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's what is exciting about the tournament.
Now Houston's very good.
Wait. If Houston advances, what are they thinking of Rutgers? They had that game basically won and let the game slip away.
Yeah. They played not to lose. They played not to lose the last 5 minutes of the game, and it really cost them. I like their coach, but that was a bad decision the way they tried to just kind of.
In the last minute, they're trying to kill the clock with a 2-point lead in like 58 seconds, and they're trying to kill the clock with a 2-point lead then?
Yeah. They played great for 38 minutes, 37 minutes, and then they destroyed it all.
And they got scared. Right, they played not to lose at the end.
And that was a good Rutgers team, too, I'll tell you. They could have. Yeah. I had actually picked them to go to the regional final. So,
Well, excuse me while I brag a little bit here. Of course, we had Alabama beating Maryland yesterday, but one of my Final Four picks, USC, is still in there, and they pretty much they ran Kansas out of the building.
Interestingly enough, the Pac-12 has been derided all season for not having any good teams, and you still got Oregon State alive, you still got UCLA alive, you still got USC alive. UCLA is playing really good basketball right now. Yeah. And USC is, to go to your point, is really playing well. I would not be shocked to see that. Who they got here next, by the way? They got Oregon, and Oregon's still alive.
Yeah.
So, again, it's going to be interesting that you get USC and Gonzaga here in that region.
That would be very interesting. So let's talk a little bit before we let you go, Keith, about March 31st. Huge show coming up on Northeast Streaming Sports. Just to give baseball their due too, Sal Angioletta he's doing a big opening day special there on Talking Sports with Sal Angioletti. He's going to have a huge show, but we're going to be on right with him. We'll both be going live with our Final Four preview and let the viewers and listeners know who we got coming up on that show.
Well, that show will be hosted by myself and you and Big Shaw from the Northeast Streaming Sports Network as well. We've got Rex Walter, former NCAA champion at Kansas, coming on. We've got Butch Lee, 1977 champion at Marquette. Larry Farmer, 3-time world champion at UCLA, and he coached UCLA later on. And Gene Smith, who I had on my show this morning, great guest. He was an 84 champion with Georgetown. And sports writer Tom Keegan, who's covered 20 NCAA tournaments and is a Marquette grad, and can't wait to get on there with Butch Lee, actually. So we're going to have – and plus we've got some special maybe some other special surprises as well. So
that sounds awesome, Keith. So folks out there, if you're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live March 31st, 7 o'clock, if I'm correct, Keith?
7 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be live, at least on Mac and Jack. We'll be live on Northeast Streaming Sports. We'll be live on TGI Sports Talk. I'm not sure if you're streaming it to yours, but and I'm not sure about the TV. You make the call on that. But
YouTube, the YouTube channel also, right, Keith?
YouTube, yeah, YouTube for Northeast Streaming Sports and TGI Sports Talk, definitely. And I'm not sure what you're doing with Zodiac that night, if we're on or not, but
we'll
that's your call. Yeah,
we'll see what happens with that. I'll find out what the producer thinks about that. So
yeah, we'll make an announcement if that comes to fruition. But
definitely. So Keith, again, thank you for coming on. Pat's, Nick's, and NCAA coverage has been awesome by you, and we love having you on every Friday. Everybody join Keith Engel either on Northeast Streaming Sports or at his site at TGI Sports Talk. Incredible show. Does a great job. A lot of great guests. And very insightful and thoughtful. Thanks again.
Thank you for that. Lots of great stuff going on in Northeast Streaming Sports. We're all excited.
Yes, sir. Got a lot of big things.
He's one man who's giving you your promos you want, Mac.
Great job.
Sir. Yes, sir. Have a great day, Keith.
You too. Have a good
Take care.
So there you go. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side. We still got more sports for you. It just keeps on coming and coming, guys. So, please stick with us, and we'll be right back.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday at 8 to 10 a.m. We're just having a great show for you today, folks. Despite the technical difficulties in the beginning, We weathered the storm, folks, and we're giving you some of the best sports we can here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We just had Keith Angle up with all his great his updates, his news, and covering the teams the way he does, Jack.
Well, let me say something. Another type of technical difficulty that we should have mentioned yesterday. What happened when we were off the air? We run Wednesday through Sunday, but when we were off the air after Sunday, one of the all-time greats in basketball passed away, Elgin Baylor. We should have made note of that yesterday. Somehow it slipped under the radar and we didn't. And Elgin Baylor passed away at age 85, one of the all-time great NBA players who was a superstar before the golden age of the NBA. I mean, he was Jerry West's teammate for a lot of years. And you can make a valid argument he was a greater player than Jerry West. I mean, he was Dr. J basically before Dr. J. I'm saying the same caliber type player. And his Laker teams always came up just a little short to the Boston Celtic dynasty. So maybe Elgin Baylor didn't get his due over time as being one of the all-time great NBA players. But he was an absolute superstar, you know, when he played in the 50s and 60s. Great, great player. And then he became an NBA executive after, but it was as a player where he left his mark. A true superstar in the NBA, one of the great pioneers, Elgin Baylor.
Well said, Jack, and I agree with you 100%. A true legend of the game. So, you know, there seems, I mean, maybe because we're talking about sports a lot on our show, and you know, we do this thing 5 days a week, so it's almost a full week that we do here on Mac and Jack Sports Show. So it seems like there's a lot of people passing away lately, legends, coaches, and stuff like that, and you know, we're sad to see this happen, but you know, in the Hall of Fame, in people's minds, as long as we keep it alive, these pioneers, and I consider Elgin Baylor a pioneer in basketball also, their memories will always be alive. Same with the coaches and players that have passed. But, you know, with shows like ours, Jack, they'll never pass away. So we'll keep talking about them and making sure people know how great these players really were. And this is what you're seeing today from the work they did a long time ago in all sports. This is why we have what we have today. And different era, maybe a little bit tougher to play, maybe a little bit tougher to make money, but they loved the game, any game they played, and it sure showed every time that they stepped on the quarter field, Jack. So great. I'm glad you brought that up. So, folks, this is the type of time of the show that we go back and we look back into the past like Jack just did, and we look into the future. Unless Jack has a couple more jabs he wants to throw in there, we'll push on to that.
No, Elgin Baylor was so great. He was more than a jab. He was like a devastating left hook as a player.
That's unbelievable.
And some of the modern NBA players, and you know, it drove me crazy once. Let's talk about Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. They were talking on the air, well, which old timers could have played in today's game, and they were saying, well, Wilt Chamberlain could have, but they questioned whether the old timers could have. Elgin Baylor would have been a star in today's game.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
No ifs or buts about it. The big O Oscar Robertson, they just would have had to make a little bit of an adjustment. And I gave an example talking to Pags the other day of Wilt Chamberlain. You talk about all the NBA players who are on a minutes restriction. Wilt Chamberlain missed 13 minutes in an entire season. And running up and down the court is running up and down the court. I mean, that hasn't changed.
I agree. You know, it's the same with Bill Russell. Everybody talks about how great a rebounder Dennis Rodman was. Well, I'm telling you right now, Bill Russell was the greatest rebounder maybe of all time, and led that Celtics team to those 9 championships. So, I mean,
11,
you know.
11, Mac. 11.
Sorry, 11. 2 as a coach, right? If I'm correct. 2 as a player coach?
Well, he was a player coach with the Celtics on the last one that they'd won.
Okay, Jack. So let's get to this day in sports history, Jack. The great Jolton Joe DiMaggio takes Ty Cobb's advice and replaces his 40-ounce bat with a 36-ounce bat, Jack.
Well, I don't know much about ounces of bats. I know playing as a kid and playing in the youth service league, I played till the age of 17, and it became apparent I wasn't going to the big leagues. I used a 34-ounce bat, and that kind of fascinates me, the ounces. You hear some big leaguers who use like the 30, 32 ounces. Some like Richie Allen, who some feel should be a Hall of Famer, he used like a 40-ounce bat. So I guess it's all a preference. Who was it? Elston Howard, who invented the donut that they put on a bat, a little circle thing on a bat, in which they'd use it in their warm-up swings. So then when they came to home plate, the bat would feel lighter, meaning they get more bat speed. So
right, yeah,
yeah,
those weights they put on the bat and swing it instead of swinging 2 or 3 bats before you got up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's said that Babe Ruth had like a 46-ounce bat. I don't know if that's true or not.
How can he get bat speed on that?
I mean,
wow.
he was a big man, but I know maybe not that much in weight, but it was like a 2x4, Jack, compared to today's bat.
Well, you need bat speed against these flamethrowers. If you're facing like a Randy Johnson type who throws really hard, you got to get around on the pitch. Especially in this day and age where you get guys throwing 98, 99. You got to get around on the pitch very, very quick.
I definitely agree with that. George Foreman, we talked about, the great grouping of heavyweights way back when in the 70s with Ali, Frazier, Foreman, and Norton. Well, Foreman technically knocks out Ken Norton in 2 rounds for the title, Jack. Again, I think Frazier and Norton were built for Foreman. They came forward and they were stand in front of your face kind of fighters. And going against that Foreman power, that wasn't too good of a line.
I was in Venezuela, and Norton had come off his 2 fights with Muhammad Ali. The first one he won on a big upset in San Diego, split decision, legitimately good decision, though. He broke Ali's jaw. Ali was undertrained. For the rematch, Ali won a split decision. Ali was trained very hard for the rematch, but coming off the broken jaw, I thought he needed a little more training time. But nevertheless, Norton goes against Foreman, and considering the 2 fights he gave Ali, one he won on split decision, the other he lost on split decision, to get obliterated in 2 rounds by Foreman made Foreman seem like a monster and a big favorite when he went against Ali in Zaire. And we all know what happened to Foreman in that fight in Zaire, losing, from fight known as the rope-a-dope fight.
Yeah.
But he obliterated Norton in that title defense, Foreman, in 2 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, again, there were different styles where, Frazier and Norton gave Ali fits. And Norton was just so strong that, if you came forward against Norton, you were in for a lot of trouble. A lot of people, including me, think, that Foreman was even a harder puncher than Tyson, who was a very hard puncher. And I think Foreman was stronger than Tyson. And I don't know what would happen in that fight.
I don't know, was he a harder puncher, but he definitely was physically stronger than Tyson. And the star matchup for Norton against Foreman was a terrible matchup because Norton's best way of fighting was to come forward. And against Ali and Holmes, and Larry Holmes later, he could do that because even though both men were good punchers, they weren't powerhouses like Foreman. So Norton tried to box Foreman more, move around, and that wasn't his best way of fighting. And it was just a bad style matchup for Ken Norton.
I mean, Frazier looked way overmatched against Foreman. Got knocked down 3 times.
Well, and 7 times in the first fight, and
right.
He wasn't the same. It would have been interesting, the Frazier of the first Ali fight against Foreman. Frazier doesn't think he would have beaten Foreman because of styles, but he would have done a lot better. It wouldn't have been the fiasco it was.
Yeah, when I watched the fight, it looked like when Frazier was hitting him with some good shots, Foreman just got mad. I mean, that's what it looked like to me when I was watching the fight, where Ali was kind of hurt by those punches. So it was just really crazy watching the 2 different matchups. Birthdays today: John Stockton, born in 1962, of course, considered one of the best point guards of all time, Jack.
No, great point guard. Listen, and a member of the Dream Team, there was some controversy after The Last Dance about Isaiah Thomas not being on the team. And they said had they put Thomas on the team, they would have had to take John Stockton off. That's who he would have been replaced with. But Isaiah Thomas's issue wasn't John Stockton, because Isaiah Thomas was a greater player than John Stockton. Maybe not in 1992 at that particular moment. Stockton may have actually been a better fit for the team basketball-wise at that particular moment. But in reality, the Dream Team was going to crush anyone. It wasn't going to matter. We were talking point guards with the Knicks. That's what John Stockton was. Great point guard.
Yeah, I mean, him and Malone ran a heck of a pick and roll. I mean, it was almost unstoppable the way they did that. And you bring up something that I want to talk about briefly before we get to the next birthday. The Dream Team, of course, defeated everybody by a lot. I kind of miss our college players, and I know it's changed a lot with the sophomores going up to the NBA now. But I do miss the days when we took gold medals, and it was the college players that did it, Jack, and they did do it. It was more competitive. And I know everybody says, well, the other countries, those are really pros. I don't care.
But you can't do it now, Mac. You absolutely can't go back to that format. Internationally, the players have gotten so good, not like years ago when we did it with the college players, that college players would have a difficult time in the United States competing against those international season teams.
Yeah, I understand that, but I still miss it. I don't care if we get bronze or even coming fourth. I just enjoyed watching that, and they
were coming out early in the United States.
I know,
the elite college players are NBA players by the time the Olympics come along. It just can't be done anymore. It's not like it used to be with the 4-year players. You take the best players in college, and they're playing their pro players, the other countries, basically.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But, maybe they take those sophomores that came out early and put them with some of the 4-year players. Who knows? Maybe we could raise a little heck over there. I don't know. I just missed that. Von Miller, outside linebacker for the Denver Broncos, a heck of a pass rusher, Jack. Played. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer.
He'll be a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Super Bowl MVP Von Miller when the Broncos
yes.
Super Bowl. Yeah.
So I mean, a great defensive end / outside linebacker. They're almost the same today, working a 3-4 or 4-3 defense. But he was born in 1989, so he's still a young pup.
And Denver just re-signed him. They feel he was out last year with an injury, but they feel he could come back. He has a lot left that he could still help the Broncos. And so obviously his off-season workouts have been going well, and he could come back. Let's see, can he be a force next year with Denver? Something might go down big with Denver as far as the quarterback situation. It appears they're going to move on from Drew Lock, that he's not their answer. And a lot of people feel they might make a trade with Miami to move in the number 3 position and either take Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever the Jets don't take.
Yeah.
That the Broncos apparently are going to be in play for that player if they make the trade with Miami.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a little too early because the Denver Broncos have been a mess, Jack. I mean, I feel bad for some of these quarterbacks that get picked, in the first round or second round, and they got a lot of potential, and they go to a team that's just a mess, and there's no way that they can show what they got. So I don't know. We'll see.
Fans are spoiled. They won a Super Bowl a few years ago, Denver fans. Come on.
Yeah,
so give me a break. Enjoy that Super Bowl, and and you're playing with house money beyond that the next few years.
I agree with that, Jack. So we're coming to the end of the show, folks. We're in our last about 50 seconds. And tomorrow, guys, we have a great debate show for you every Saturday. We're on and we debate all of the big topics, past, present, and even looking into the future in some cases. We'll have Dr. Paul Semendinger on with us, and we also will be debating, Jack. We'll be debating, let's see, who's the best, the more popular Yankee, Jeter or Yogi Berra, Mantle versus Mays in their prime, most intimidating team, sports team in sports history, instant replay, should it stay or go, most underrated football position, and best team who never won the World Series, folks. Me and Jack go at it tomorrow, and, join us and see who you think is right. So you have a great day, have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.